So let me just say right now that pretty much when I was watching this movie, I didn't expect Tara Strong to be in this. That that is literally the most insanest thing that could be a part of any English dub or Studio Ghibli movie that could ever happen in the entirety of the production of a dub was getting Tara Strong to be a part of it. But still, it's pretty awesome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Movie Fridays, or Film Fridays. I'm still working on that title. And this is a new show where I, of course, talk about movies that I didn't have the chance to either see when they came out in theaters, or, yeah, that's about it. Movies I just didn't have the chance to see in theaters, or just movies in particular I just felt like I wanted to cover on this channel. So, the movie I feel like will be at least a good starter for me right now is the anime film from Studio Ghibli, Only Yesterday. This right here, I think, is probably one of the few movies I actually do kind of like from them. And there are many reasons that it sort of reflects the idea and purposes of it. And the idea behind it is that the plot is a young woman is taking a break from her life in the city to go out to the farm to do some harvesting with some friends for a little while. But during the movie, she then has flashbacks every so often to her own little childhood in school and everything in between in the movie. Many of her situations can literally reflect what she's feeling right now and just how she felt back then and just, some of the decisions that she made back then. Feels like she regrets stuff, many things that she felt like just weren't things that felt out of place in her own world. It's basically a film that really delves into someone's really deep psyche. And if you want to know what it is, pretty much the feeling is, you ever get that feeling whenever you're working and then the next thing you know you suddenly have some sort of quick flashback to when you were in school or whatever, or something was reminiscent of what you did back then. That is the feeling you get. It's kind of like that feeling you get, except they put it in movie form. Pretty much, the film itself is so wonderfully done. And pretty much, the characters in it, I really do like, not only from the childhood perspective, but also the adult side as well. Especially when they're talking about, when our main lead is talking about, some things with a friend and then their relative is with them. Which, one of the relatives is of course played by Tara Strong, which I'm still surprised they even got for this movie. And I still want to see her do more dumb movies more often. But pretty much in the long end, they still reminisce about characters that they've seen in their childhood, and they reflect their own lives upon it. That is so deep. There could be a full analysis video, just how deep is this movie, or something like that. It's pretty wonderful, just how great Only Yesterday is. And pretty much one of the quotes that one of the that Entertainment Weekly has pretty much sums it up. It's gorgeous. A rare and powerful movie. This film is that. But would I consider it on the powers of something like Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, or Princess Mononoke, or Spirited Away? Somewhat. Although this is a powerful movie, and it definitely feels really fantastic and really amazing, and even if you do want to show it to your young ones, I don't think this would be as powerful, or at least as big or grand as, like, those movies in particular. It's more or less a reflective side of looking back on life. And really, that's what it is. The film is looking back on someone's life. The stories in it, which I'll probably tell one, but the rest of it you'll have to see for yourselves, is pretty much there's one story in it where where our main lead, Takeda, is basically, at a young age, he's wanting to go to, basically winds up going up on stage in her own little school to do this little play or whatever. And the university somehow managed to catch the attention of this. But her father is a little bit, overbearing and whatnot, and some of the parents and relatives just see her as a little bit of somebody who just really isn't that smart, or somebody who's just really not that powerful or anything like that, and really can't stand up for herself. Pretty much, it's how you look back on life. Just what would you do at that age? Because you would have if you were a child, you had no control over that. It was pretty much all your parents. I mean, imagine all those child actors in Hollywood or Disney Channel right now who are currently, trying to find jobs for their young ones so that they can pay for their homes in LA or Hollywood or wherever they're living. Imagine the struggle that they're going through in order to make sure that their literal that their child is paying for some of their stuff. But they also have to make sure that part of the time they're there for their kid, but also part of the time the parents are helping out with the home paying as well. They also have jobs. As a child, you really have no control of that. As I look at it now, and this is my first time seeing it, I think this movie resembles that. It resembles all of what I went through as a young age. What am I saying? At a young age. I mean, pretty much, I dreamt of being an actor as a kid. I loved movies. I mean, you could pretty much tell behind me right now, I love movies. And basically, as soon as 2011 hit, and I became the critic. But before then, I wanted to be an actor, but the parents, but my parents, they, they winded up, literally telling, like, what will happen if I did do Hollywood productions. Like, most of the time you couldn't be on social networks, you couldn't leak what you were doing, and you have to stay on focus and read a lot of things, which, to me, at my stupid young age, I didn't take that into account, or say, readings for sissies. But in 2011, when I did become the critic and was in high school, I had to make sure I was able to read, and I was able to be clear with my voice. Reason for that is because you need to speak clearly. You need to take some sort of form of drama in order to be poetic with your poses. That's kind of what actors do. Pretty much, if you see my reviews, I take a lot of my acting not from drama classes from high school, but from actual movies themselves. Because I didn't take reviews, or at least when I did acting on my own, I basically studied how, like, everybody did it. I took that into account when I first did my pilot episode, and I just went with it. I went with the flow, and then it was done. This film, at least in my opinion, resembles just how you look back on life and how you feel about a lot of characters that you look back on. Sometimes you may look at one student and think, oh, he's just like a student that I didn't really like, but as soon as we, got to know each other for a bit, we got along. And then we look back on it, and it's like, how silly was it that we didn't get along at first? It was pretty silly. That, I think, is this movie. And it's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. The animation, fantastic. Like, the animation differences between both it and the flashbacks. Like, the flashbacks, they're, like, animated in a way that it's kind of reminiscent of that of... Oh, how do I say it? It's kind of like one of those cartoons you see at an early age, way back when, like Hanna-Barbera or something like that. But it's kind of like, also, like you're thinking on a distant memory. So, you're literally thinking on that said memory. So, parts of the background, you don't remember it very well. You only remember those little moments. And I love that animation style for flashbacks, and I wish that movies could do that more whenever they do flashbacks. Because pretty much that looks pretty fantastic. And I feel like it's rarely done in movies nowadays. But I think, in my opinion, they did it pretty well in this. They like, it's fantastic just how they got everything together to create this one film. film, not only with the creative flashbacks, but also how our main lead interacts with those flashbacks. On the recommendation scale, I'd say that this movie, I wouldn't say it's like on the high ranks of all the other Ghibli movies, but I'd say that at least you give it a watch. I recommend it, but it is worth watching and worth buying on Blu-ray. It is worth that. Pretty much all the Ghibli movies are. And if you want to see this, do it. Just go for it. It's really fantastic. It's a wonderful little film. And if you had that feeling that you ever look back on your life and think, I remember those moments in school, then you can literally relate to this movie. Part of the time, I kinda did relate. And sorry if this episode went on for a little longer than it should have. I mean, this is the first episode, after all, of Film Fridays. So, with that in mind, hope you did enjoy the first episode, and whatever you thought of Only Yesterday, tell me what your thoughts are down in the comments, give the video a like, and I'll get the Patreon fixed as soon as, I'll get the Patreon started up as soon as I can, so be patient. And with that in mind, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next week for an all-new all-new episode of Movie Friday. So, see you guys later.